Okay, so we have done with the, or we have seen for the last lecture, it is a constructor part, few more combinations in which we can use the constructor uh, with and without default constructor as a part of different multi-level multiple inheritance. So this is the example where we can use the constructor in the base class and derived class without a default constructor. So it will be having with the error for this code. After that, we have seen with this explicit invocation, explicitly how you are going to add the constructor as a part of your program, and with that how you can perform where you will be having a parameterized constructor. Okay. So this permutation, these different combinations, it will be gives you idea that how you can use the constructor as a part of your program with or without default constructor explicitly or implicitly. So definitely, if you are not using any default constructor, so definitely it will be having the error for this code. Okay. Then we have seen next for constructor, which will be for multiple inheritance. So with default invocation. So there, what we are saying it as, we'll be having with the sequence in which we are calling the constructor. Okay, so or inheriting, I can say it as that sequence. It will be matters for displaying you output or implementation execution. It will be starts with that execution. Okay, or the default whatever that you have invoked. So that constructor it will be, and we are having one rule that we can say it as when we are going with the constructor. So execution it will be starts from the base class and then towards derived class. But derived class, the which class which you are inheriting first. Okay, suppose now here in this example, we are having a two base classes. So in this first derived class which we are inheriting, that will be called first or executed first. Okay. Now this it will be output as you can get it as we are inheriting A2 class first, then A1 and then derived class. Okay. Now constructor which will be used with explicit invocation for multiple inheritance. So where we'll be having the same mechanism, we can say it as the sequence in which you are going to inherit, that will be executed first. Okay. And last, that is a constructor with a multi-level inheritance. So as you can say, it has constructor that we can implement it for every inheritance where we are supposed to where we are going to perform with some operations, and with these constructors we can get involved, we are going to perform with the some different operations which are inheriting. Okay. Now after that we have done with the destructor. So destructor we are having with the rule as we are going to first deallocate or memory deallocation. It will be done first for derived class, then it is for base class. So this basic rule you should be have in your mind, that constructor in the sequence in which it will be called, destructor it will be called or executed with the reverse way of it. Okay. So in which sequence it will be destructing or deallocating the memory, it will be with first for derived class and then for base class. Okay. So this it will be example where you'll be having a destructor to be used for this. So inheritance for this, as we have said, where you'll be having a two base classes which are inherited for one derived class. Okay, so it is a multiple inheritance. Okay, so these are the basic rules for virtual function. Okay, so just okay. Okay, so where we'll be having with the virtual function or rules for this virtual function. It will be mainly required, or why we are using the virtual function, as provide the redundant memory allocation for inheritance. And when you are going to have with the method overriding, so it will be used for performing the different tasks, so that can be achieved with the help of either virtual class or virtual function. Okay, so if you are making it as a class, as a virtual class, so then it will be example for virtual inheritance or virtual base class. And if I'm making it as one of the function as a virtual, so then we can use it either. It will be again, there we are having the one more part, that is pure virtual function and virtual function. Okay, so virtual function, this it will be referred with these things that you need to have when you are going to. So most important part that you need to say about this virtual function. So when we are supposed to use that example shape example where we are doing a method overriding, so definitely that memory allocation, it will be done as per the dynamic binding. So that is the main important thing that we cannot, or we can get with the help of virtual function. So that's why we can say it as the members that we cannot include it as a virtual function, that will not be a static. These are the dynamic, or it will be a late binding. Then apart from this, okay, so we have moved for the pure virtual function. So syntax, which will be where we are going to make a declaration for this as 0. So it will be, as we can say it as, is a part of your program, but when you are supposed to, or it will be not having any body part, so it is not having any definition, we can say it as. So when you are supposed to use it, you are supposed to say it as either a abstract class. Okay, so when you are using it in the class in which this virtual function are used, we are generally referring that as a abstract class. Okay, now after that we have seen with this difference for the virtual function and pure virtual function. Okay, so this difference, you will get the purpose, or why we are going to use with this pure virtual function, or why we are using the virtual function. Okay, so these differentiating features you might be asked in the exam also. So I'm going to share one file with you where we'll be getting all the differences. So I'm creating that file for the per unit. In the particular specific unit, you might be asked the differentiating feature of these things. Okay. So syntax wise, no doubt it is having a difference, but basic difference that we can say it as your virtual function, it might be having with the body part. For pure virtual function, it will be not having the body part. It will be referred that class as a abstract class. Okay, and we're seeing with the few more features for this differentiating features, and then we have started with this abstract class. Okay, so we have taken with the review for this what we have seen for the previous session. Now abstract class means, as we have said, that from that class we are able to get abstract, or we are getting some information, detailed information, as we can say it as, it can be achieved. Okay, so that the class in which we are using this pure virtual function, where we can identify that whether it is a pure virtual function or virtual function. How we can identify that, okay, your program is having a virtual function or pure virtual function? Can anyone? Uh, so we have seen with the difference also. How we can identify that whether your class or the program is having abstract class or not? I will ask it in another way. Can anyone? I've got the question. How should we identify that your program is having a pure virtual function or not, or it is having abstract class or not? what it will be answer for this? First question, that is how we are going to identify whether it is having a pure virtual function or not. That is, if I'm having any function which has been initialized with the 0 is equal to 0, then we can say it as it is having a use of pure virtual function, and class in which we are using this, that class will be referred as abstract class. Okay, so what we are saying it as about the abstract class, that is a class which is exists logically, but it will be not performing any task, or it will be, or for that class we are not creating any object. Okay, that is one more thing that we need to remember. If I am saying that it is, let's say here in this example, that shape is your abstract class, so we cannot create the object of that class. Okay, so with the class that it might be having a one or more pure function, virtual pure virtual function. So in the last session also, as I have asked that what is the purpose of this virtual function, so at least it should be having the class, it should be having at least one pure virtual function, then it will be referred as an abstract class. Okay, so from the abstract class means what? Abstract means what? Some summarized thing. From that summarized part we can get detailed information of it. So as we can say it as shape, we need to draw a shape, but which shape we need to draw, that it can be identified with the further few more classes. Okay, if you are creating object of it, it might be creating a error for this. Okay, so now example that we are going to refer for this here, you will see it where we will be having with the um, okay, so we'll get with the example actual with the implementation, and then we'll discuss with how it will be done. Okay. So we are taking the example which we are having it in the same PPT that we are having. So we'll take with that example. We'll share this first. Okay, so taken with this example in the notepad file. So as I told previously also, uh, you can start initially with the notepad so that it will be easy for you to get hands-on for the syntax for it. Okay, so and after that you can use with the for your, as you are having with the programming, either turbo C or with some online compiler, but don't directly put the things on the online compiler, or don't directly type the code on the online compiler, because it will be prompt the things, and you will be not having a good practice of programming, or you will not identify the errors in it. Okay, so what we are having in this, we are having a one class which we are saying it as it will be abstract class. Why? Because it is having one pure virtual function which we are calling with the name as area, and this it will be having with the few variables as a protected and few as a public. Okay, so which is a not virtual function, so from which we are going to take one input, and we need to draw that or we need to calculate the area of the square, then area of the circle. So such kind of example we have seen it, but now this we are seeing it for pure virtual function, and in the main we are going to create the object of these both. Okay, so here if you can observe this, we are inheriting the base class shape to square and circle, and while creating the object we are not creating it for base class, we are creating it for derived class. Okay, square and circle, then we are going to take it for square will be required with the area of the square will be required with the length, so that length we are taking it as input, and with the help of get data we can get that, and we can calculate it directly here. Okay, so it will be called with this s dot area. That means what? Your control will be transferred to s is the object of square class. It will goes with this. It will goes to definition and gives the or will return the area of a square. Similarly, it will be done for circle. So there you are taking it as input as radius of that circle, and we are getting the output for this. So what output you are able to get? We see with the online compiler. Okay, so you might be getting with this. I'll just with this part here. Okay, so okay, what it is having with the errors, line number. So you need to read with the error with the line number. Okay, so first go for the file name. Okay, it will be having preferably. Then line number where we'll be having the error. So it is missing with the character double quotation mark. Okay, so if you start reading the error, you can resolve this. Here, sorry. So it has been given with the enter. So that's why it is having the also doing this here. Okay. So now, so I think these two errors will be given. Yes, for this because of this only it will be having the error. So Prasad Jagtap. So I'm expecting that you are all are maintaining the dignity of the lecture. So I'm not putting any restrictions. Okay. Okay, so it is will increase with the font size. So it will be having with this expecting the input, that is enter the length to calculate the area of square. So it will give the input as a 2. So it will calculate with that area of a square, L into L, that is a 4. Then for circle, let's say if I give it as a 3, so it will calculate it with pi r square. So 3.14 into r square. So it will be something, it will be getting this as output for this. Okay, so apart from this, so what we need to identify that, or what we need to get from this, the class which we are using it as a base class, and that also we are inheriting that property by making it to a inherited, and we are accessing that data members. Okay, so as you can observe this, if you can see this data member that we have mentioned it with the protected data type, so that we can get access, that it will be also one more advantage that we are able to get. But here we are not accessing it directly through it, but we are making it with a virtual function. So we are not using this virtual function. So as we are not creating any object of this base class, we are created the object of only derived classes. We are just inheriting that property. Okay, Now it will be having with the advantage that we can get the access, we can perform the task with this. Okay, so let's share with the PPT once again. Okay, so we have seen with this example. So it will be having with the one pure virtual function area which we have initialized, and so that the class in which that function is there, we are calling it as abstract class, and we are not creating the object. Still, we can get it by inheriting that properties. We can access the data member and member functions from it. Okay. Now we'll be having now this already we might be done with this, because when we are going to have, or we are seeing with the part related with the, when we are creating a pointer to base class, now it is pointer for derived class. Now pointer to, or pointer as we are creating it to a base class, can as we can, or we have seen it already also, that it can point to the derived class objects also, if I'm going to point, or if I'm going to store that value. However, we can say it as the members, data members, we can say it as of the derived object that were, we can say it as inherited from the base class and can be accessed for it. Okay, so we'll see with that with one more example and what output it will be showing. So, what is the difference we have seen with this example with uh, previously with where we are going to have with the, or we are creating the object of base class and pointer for that, or we are going to point it to derived class. Okay, so here you can observe it that we are having with the base class BC and star BTR. So this is a pointer to base class, and this is your actual base class object. Now what it will be having a difference in this both. So this object pointer or star as we are making it, it can hold the object of the base class, or it can point, I can say it as hold, it can point to a object of the base class as well as it can point to a object of the derived class. So as you can observe it here, we can have it the, both the values, and whereas we are going to create one more pointer of derived class also, and that can also point to a derived class object. Now, what is the difference when you are going to point, or when you are going to hold the values for it? So we can point with that object to a base class object with the pointer. So as you can see this last or second last line. So just going to show this. There is a this where we'll be having with the DC as a your derived class, and the pointer it is for base class, and it is pointing to which, a data member of derived class. Okay, so D is a variable which we have included as a part of your derived class. Okay, so initially, so this first part, no doubt we can do, that is with the help of base class pointer, we can point to a derived class, but with the help of derived class pointer, we can have, or we can use that pointer which will be pointing it to a base class also. Okay, so it will be expecting that when you are going to create these values, so while getting it in the output, as you can see it with the first part, whenever you are going to call for the show method, so first show method, it will be a base pointer with show, that is a base class show method, it will be showing with the value as 100. Then next we have initialized that value with the derived class. So as you can see it here, bptr is equal to ampersand, whatever that, so we are going to point to that class. So the object or the pointer, it will be holding that value, we are going to point to that class. Okay, so here we are going to have this b value which will be pointing it to a derived class, and where we will be having with the, or we are going to show with the value as 200. Again, when we are going to show with the value with the derived class object or pointer, we are going to show with the value for d variable, and it will be taking it previously value for b as 200 and new value for d which I mentioned it as 300. And then once again we are going to change with that with the base class pointer, it will be changed to 400. So what the difference it will be having? So initially we can have access with the base pointer or object of that base class, and we are having with the derived class object which is pointing it for the base class values also. Okay, so this pointer to derived class, we have seen it for first point, that is for pointer to base class. Similarly we can do the, or we can give a pointer to derived class also. Okay, so we are having less than 1 minute, so it's my request when you are going to have with the rejoining the session, rejoin it on time so that we'll finish with one more point, that is called